Kampus Desa Kuta dan Kampus Desa Cisarua merupakan sebuah bentuk keseriusan PPSDM KEBTKE untuk terus menciptakan sumber daya manusia yang berkompeten, profesional, dan berdaya saing tinggi di setiap bidangnya.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hari ini saya mengunjungi beberapa fasilitas PPSDM, khususnya yang ada di Satker PPSDM KEBTKE yang berada di Cisarua dan di Megamendung. Kita melihat nih di belakang kita, ini beberapa fasilitas yang harusnya nanti muncul di sini. Beberapa pelatihan-pelatihan yang kita bisa manfaatkan berdasarkan lokasi yang ada di sekitar sini. Jadi kita berharap kita semuanya bisa memanfaatkan, terutama terkait dengan pelayanan untuk masyarakat. Saya sangat mendukung pengembangan PPSDM KEBTKE untuk memanfaatkan aset-aset yang ada guna perkembangan institusi ini supaya lebih maju lagi ke depannya. Terima kasih. Jaya selalu PPSDM KEBTKE.
Pengembangan sumber daya manusia adalah proses pelatihan pengetahuan dan sertifikasi sumber daya manusia. Maka dari itu, PPSDM KEBTKE hadir dalam sebuah lembaga yang memfasilitasi sumber daya manusia yang baru. Kami siap menciptakan sumber daya manusia yang cepat, cermat, dan produktif.
Halo, perkenalkan nama saya Poppy Arkadi dan rekan saya
Agus.
Jadi kami merupakan mahasiswa dari D4 spesialisasi energi baru terbarukan. Di program studi ini kita mempelajari terkait dengan energi baru terbarukan, khususnya PLTS dan PLTN.
Nah, di sini kami tidak hanya mendapatkan teori, tapi ada juga praktek, dan praktek yang kita telah lakukan di sini adalah terkait perencanaan PLTS dan PLTMH, kemudian perawatan PLTS dan PLTMH, dan ada juga kontrol terkait SCADA.
Nah, jadi teman-teman gak usah ragu lagi untuk join bersama kami di program studi ini, karena tentunya prospek ke depan sangat bagus sekali ya, Gus ya?
Iya, benar banget, Poppy.
Belajar energi terbarukan. kalau kita bayangi di beberapa tahun ke depan ini, kita akan melihat bahwa banyak sekali yang kita butuhkan. Untuk yang dibutuhkan sekarang saja sudah kekurangan sekali. Jadi harus benar-benar bagaimana kita menyiapkan diri untuk perkembangan yang akan datang di masa depan.
Kelasnya itu sangat seru dan instrukturnya itu juga baik-baik dan mereka sangat keren-keren dan pengalaman mereka itu luar biasa.
Nanti di akhir kan bakalan dapetin sertifikat dan itu sangat berguna banget buat kalian untuk melanjutkan jenjang karir kalian ke yang lebih tinggi lagi.
Dan untuk cewek-cewek jangan merasa takut untuk mengikutinya karena kami aja bisa, apalagi kalian pasti bisa.
Dunia terus berubah dan juga beriringan dengan semua kebutuhan di dalamnya. Di dalam kehidupan manusia sehari-hari, sumber energi menjadikan hal yang utama bagi keberlangsungan hidup manusia hingga diperlukannya sumber energi terbarukan. PPSDM KEBTKE hadir untuk memenuhi semua tantangan-tantangan yang ada di masa sekarang ini. Di bidang ketenagalistrikan, energi baru dan terbarukan, serta konservasinya agar bidang KEBTKE dapat dikelola secara baik. Mengelola sumber daya manusia di bidang ketenagalistrikan, energi baru terbarukan menjadi fokus utama bagi PPSDM KEBTKE untuk menjadikannya SDM yang berkompeten, profesional, berdaya saing, dan juga bermoral dalam lingkungan global di bidang ketenagalistrikan atau energi baru terbarukan dan konservasi energi. Dengan program-program unggulan yang diterapkan PPSDM KEBTKE dan juga didukung oleh para pegawai yang profesional dan berdedikasi tinggi. Demi melengkapi kesempurnaan pembentukan sumber daya manusia di bidang ketenagalistrikan, energi baru dan terbarukan. Demi menciptakan dan membentuk SDM yang kompeten, profesional, dan berdaya saing tinggi. PPSDM KEBTKE memfasilitasi seluruh peserta didik dengan sarana dan prasarana yang sudah memiliki standar ISO. Laboratorium dan workshop menjadi fokus sarana dan prasarana di wilayah Pusdikat KEBTKE.
PPSDM KEBTKE, Kementerian Energi dan Sumber Daya Mineral telah bertransformasi menjadi sebuah lembaga pengembangan SDM di bidang ketenagalistrikan dan EBTKE yang unggul dan selalu menjaga kualitas layanannya. PPSDM KEBTKE mendukung target nasional Net Zero Emission 2060 melalui transisi energi yang harus diwujudkan oleh semua pihak untuk mengurangi dampak perubahan iklim bagi kehidupan masyarakat. Selain itu, Indonesia memiliki energi baru terbarukan dengan potensi yang tinggi, mulai dari matahari, hidro atau air, angin, bioenergi, panas bumi, serta lautan. Hal inilah yang membuat kami semakin matang dan siap melayani Anda. Kami didukung oleh para fasilitator yang berkompeten dan fasilitas yang lengkap sesuai dengan kebutuhan pelatihan, sertifikasi, bimbingan teknis, dan layanan penunjang lainnya. Pelatihan dan sertifikasi dilaksanakan dengan layanan yang prima. Bergabunglah bersama PPSDM KEBTKE.
Program diklat di dalamnya dibagi menjadi 4 kelompok besar, yaitu bidang ketenagalistrikan, energi baru terbarukan, konservasi energi, serta manajemen. Bidang ketenagalistrikan terdapat beberapa diklat unggulan yang mencakup diklat teknis inspektur ketenagalistrikan, diklat teknis perencanaan ketenagalistrikan, diklat teknis perizinan ketenagalistrikan, diklat teknis uji layak instalasi listrik, diklat teknis perhitungan tarif listrik, diklat teknis pengembangan listrik perdesaan, Diklat Teknis Pengelolaan dan Pemantauan Lingkungan Bidang Ketenagalistrikan, dan Diklat Teknis Pengelolaan PLTMH. Di bidang energi baru terbarukan, dikembangkan beberapa diklat teknis, di antaranya Diklat Teknis Pengelolaan PLTS, Diklat Teknis Pengelolaan PLTB, Diklat Teknis Pengelolaan Biogas, serta Diklat Teknis Lelang Wilayah Kerja Pertambangan Panas Bumi. Sementara untuk bidang konservasi energi, diliputi Diklat Teknis Kiat-Kiat Konservasi Energi, Diklat Teknis Audit Energi, Diklat Teknis Manajer Energi, Diklat Teknis Penghematan Energi dan Air, Diklat Teknis Adaptasi dan Mitigasi Gas Rumah Kaca, dan Diklat Teknis Perencanaan Energi. Dengan itu semua, saat ini PPSDM KEBTKE mempersiapkan sebuah wilayah yang akan dijadikan sebuah kampus besar diklat tersendiri di daerah Cisarua, Jawa Barat, yang akan didirikannya sebuah fasilitas lengkap untuk memenuhi kebutuhan para pengajar dan peserta didik. Kampus Desa Kuta dan Kampus Desa Cisarua merupakan sebuah bentuk keseriusan PPSDM KEBTKE untuk terus menciptakan sumber daya manusia yang berkompeten, profesional, dan berdaya saing tinggi di setiap bidangnya.
Baik. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hari ini saya mengunjungi beberapa fasilitas PPSDM, khususnya yang ada di Satker PPSDM KEBTKE yang berada di Cisarua dan di Megamendung. Kita melihat nih di belakang kita, ini beberapa fasilitas yang harusnya nanti muncul di sini, beberapa pelatihan-pelatihan yang kita bisa manfaatkan berdasarkan lokasi yang ada di sekitar sini. Jadi kita berharap kita semuanya bisa memanfaatkan, terutama terkait dengan pelayanan untuk masyarakat. Saya sangat mendukung pengembangan PPSDM KEBTKE untuk memanfaatkan aset-aset yang ada guna perkembangan institusi ini supaya lebih maju lagi ke depannya. Terima kasih. Jaya selalu PPSDM KEBTKE.
Pengembangan sumber daya manusia adalah proses pelatihan pengetahuan dan sertifikasi sumber daya manusia. Maka dari itu, PPSDM KEBTKE hadir dalam sebuah lembaga yang memfasilitasi sumber daya manusia yang baru. Kami siap menciptakan sumber daya manusia yang cepat, cermat, dan produktif.
Halo.
Perkenalkan, nama saya Kopi Arkadi dan rekan
saya Agus.
Jadi kami merupakan mahasiswa dari D4 spesialisasi energi baru terbarukan. Di program studi ini kita mempelajari terkait dengan energi baru terbarukan, khususnya PLTS dan PLTMH.
Nah, di sini kami tidak hanya mendapatkan teori, tapi ada juga praktek, dan praktek yang kita telah lakukan di sini adalah terkait perencanaan PLTS dan PLTMH, kemudian perawatan PLTS dan PLTMH, dan ada juga kontrol terkait SCADA.
Nah, jadi teman-teman gak usah ragu lagi untuk join bersama kami di program studi ini, karena tentunya prospek ke depan sangat bagus sekali ya, Gus ya?
Iya, benar banget, Kopi.
Belajar
Energi terbarukan.
Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, Sobat Energi. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, dan salam kebajikan. Mohon izin, perkenalkan saya Endah Iliana. Saya akan menjadi MC pada kegiatan siang hari ini. Halo Mbak Dian, apa kabarnya?
Halo Mbak Endah, baik.
Halo. Baik, kabar baik. Sedang dalam bulan Ramadan ya, Mbak Dian?
Ya, betul. Harus tetap semangat.
Betul, baik. Ini sembari kita menunggu Pak Kepala PPSDM KIBTKE, Bapak Susetyo Edi Prabowo. Selamat siang, Pak. Baik, sembari menunggu ya. Hi, Jocelyn. How are you?
Hi, fine, thank you, and you?
Fine, great.
I think it's working. I think
everything is good, but we are still waiting, Pak Kepala PPSDM KIBTKE, Bapak Susetyo Edi Prabowo. So you are live from Switzerland, right, Joe?
Yeah, that's true. Exactly.
Okay, great.
So it's the morning for me. But
wah, nah.
Good morning, Jocelyn. How are you?
Morning, Jan. Fine, thank you, and you?
Good, thank you. Bright and early, I guess, over there.
Yeah, but it's 8 o'clock, so that's fine. Not too early.
Kapus sudah bergabung. Apa kabar, Pak Edi?
Baik, Bu Dian. Apa kabar?
Baik, Pak Edi.
Halo, Pak Jocelyn.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. And you?
Yeah, fine too.
Great.
Nice meet you.
Baik. Baik, selamat siang. Meskipun ini sudah siang dan jelang buka puasa, ya, tapi kita harus tetap semangat, jadi tetap semangatnya semangat pagi. Baik, yang kami hormati Bapak Kepala Badan Pengembangan Sumber Daya Manusia, Energi, dan Sumber Daya Mineral, atau yang mewakili Sekretaris BPSDM SDM, atau yang mewakili Bapak Kepala PPSDM KIBTKE, Bapak Susetyo Edi Prabowo MSI, kemudian para direktur, kepala balai, pejabat pimpinan tinggi Pratama di lingkungan Kementerian SDM, juga selaku narasumber, yaitu Jocelyn Whitmer dari Swiss Federal Office for Agriculture Agroscope. Moderator kita siang hari ini Ibu Dian Elvira Rosa, Deputy Team Leader Proyek Renewable Energy Skills Development RISD, para koordinator, subkoordinator, serta pejabat fungsional PPSDM KIBTKE, serta para peserta webinar. Selamat siang. Meskipun kita tidak bisa bertemu secara langsung, tapi kita bisa melihat yang hadir siang hari ini sudah banyak, hampir lewat dari 200 orang. Selamat siang, Sobat Energi, saya hormati. Perkenalkan, saya Endah Iliana, Pranata Humas PPSDM KIBTKE, akan menjadi MC pada siang hari ini. Pada Rabu 27 Maret ini, PPSDM KBTKE akan menyelenggarakan webinar dengan mengangkat tema The Potential of Agri-Photovoltaics to Maximize Fruits and Crop Production Experiences from Switzerland. Webinar ini diselenggarakan dalam rangka sosialisasi dan diseminasi informasi terkait tugas dan fungsi PPSDM KBTKE dalam mengembangkan sumber daya manusia di bidang ketenagalistrikan, energi baru terbarukan, dan konservasi energi. Serta webinar ini merupakan sarana diskusi terkait perkembangan terkini di sektor SDM KBTKE. Webinar hari ini terselenggara atas kerjasama antara PPSDM KBTKE dan Proyek Renewable Energy Skills Development, yaitu kerjasama pembangunan antara BPSDM, ESDM, dan pemerintah Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs (SECO). Bapak Ibu, hadirin yang kami hormati, Sobat Energi sekalian, untuk selanjutnya adalah pembacaan sambutan dari Kepala Badan Pengembangan Sumber Daya Manusia, Energi, dan Sumber Daya Mineral yang akan disampaikan oleh Kepala PPSDM KBTKE. Kepada Bapak Susetyo Edi Prabowo, waktu dan tempat kami persilakan.
Baik, terima kasih Bu Endah. Yang saya hormati Mr. Jocelyn Whitmer dari Swiss Federal Office for Agriculture Agroscope selaku narasumber kita. Yang saya hormati para panelis yang terdiri dari pimpinan tinggi Pratama, pejabat administrasi dan fungsional di lingkungan Kementerian ESDM. Yang saya hormati moderator kita Ibu Dian Elvira Rosa. Yang saya hormati para peserta webinar kedua tahun 2024 PPSDM KBTKE, baik yang mengikuti kegiatan ini melalui akun Zoom, YouTube, dan sosial media PPSDM KBTKE. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang dan salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Pada kesempatan ini kami sampaikan permohonan maaf dari Bapak Kepala BPSDM SDM yang dalam kesempatan ini berhalangan hadir. Selanjutnya izinkan saya untuk menyampaikan sambutan beliau. Puji dan syukur kita panjatkan kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Tuhan yang Maha Esa. Atas berkah dan karunia-Nya kita dapat berkumpul hari ini, Rabu 27 Maret 2024, dalam keadaan sehat walafiat, untuk mengikuti webinar yang sangat penting guna menambah wawasan dan pengetahuan energi baru terbarukan dan konservasi energi. Bapak, Ibu, para panelis, dan peserta yang kami hormati, alhamdulillah kita patut bersyukur bersama bahwa di bulan Ramadan ini kita dapat dipertemukan kembali dalam acara webinar PPSDM KBTKE kedua di tahun 2024 dengan mengangkat topik The Potential of Agri-Photovoltaics to Maximize Fruits and Crops Production Experiences from Switzerland, yang akan disampaikan oleh Mr. Jocelyn Whitmer dari Swiss Federal Office for Agriculture. Panjang tahun, Indonesia memiliki potensi besar dalam memanfaatkan energi matahari sebagai sumber energi yang bersih, terbarukan, dan berkelanjutan. Namun, pengembangan dan pemanfaatan tenaga surya di Indonesia masih belum optimal. Saat ini kita menyadari bahwa pertanian merupakan salah satu sektor yang sangat penting bagi perekonomian Indonesia. Namun, pertanian juga merupakan salah satu sektor yang rentan terhadap perubahan iklim dan cuaca. Oleh karena itu, diperlukan inovasi yang cerdas dan berkelanjutan untuk meningkatkan produktivitas pertanian sekaligus mengurangi dampak negatif terhadap lingkungan. sehingga potensi tenaga surya menjadi sangat relevan di sektor pertanian. Bapak, Ibu, para panelis, dan peserta yang kami hormati, dengan mengintegrasikan sistem tenaga surya ke dalam infrastruktur pertanian, kita dapat menciptakan solusi yang berkelanjutan untuk meningkatkan produktivitas dan efisiensi dalam sektor pertanian. Panel surya dapat dipasang di lahan pertanian, di atas rumah kaca, atau bahkan di atas bangunan-bangunan pertanian lainnya. Menyediakan sumber energi yang bersih dan murah untuk menggerakkan sistem irigasi, ventilasi, penyinaran, dan alat-alat pertanian lainnya. Selain itu, dengan menggunakan tenaga surya, kita dapat mengurangi ketergantungan pada bahan bakar fosil yang tidak hanya mahal, namun juga merusak lingkungan. Dengan mengurangi emisi karbon secara keseluruhan, kita dapat berkontribusi pada pelestarian lingkungan dan menjaga keseimbangan ekosistem yang penting bagi kelangsungan hidup pertanian. Namun, untuk mencapai potensi penuh dari pemanfaatan tenaga surya dalam pertanian, diperlukan komitmen bersama dari pemerintah, swasta, dan masyarakat. Kita perlu membangun infrastruktur yang mendukung, memberikan insentif bagi investasi dalam energi terbarukan, serta meningkatkan kesadaran akan manfaat dan potensi tenaga surya dalam pertanian. Bapak, Ibu, para panelis, dan peserta yang kami hormati, webinar kali ini akan menjelaskan potensi luar biasa yang ditawarkan oleh konsep fotovoltaik dalam konteks pertanian modern. Fotovoltaik atau lebih dikenal dengan panel surya telah mengubah lanskap energi global, namun potensinya dalam pertanian belum sepenuhnya dieksplorasi. Dengan bergabungnya teknologi fotovoltaik dengan praktek pertanian, kita dapat membuka peluang baru yang menarik untuk meningkatkan produktivitas, efisiensi, dan keberlanjutan produksi pertanian. Melalui webinar ini, kita akan mendapatkan wawasan yang berharga, serta inspirasi untuk mengambil langkah-langkah konkret menuju pertanian masa depan yang lebih berdaya saing dan ramah lingkungan. Dalam webinar kali ini, Badan Pengembangan Sumber Daya Manusia Kementerian SDM melalui PPSDM KEBTKE mengundang ahli dari Agrospace untuk memberikan materi terkait pemanfaatan fotovoltaik dalam pertanian. Adapun topik yang akan dibahas mencakup pengenalan Agri-Photovoltaics, jenis teknologi Agri-Photovoltaics, best practice dari Switzerland, serta potensi dan tantangan Agri-Photovoltaics di Indonesia. Melalui pemaparan dan diskusi, diharapkan webinar kali ini dapat mendukung proses transisi energi Indonesia yang berkeadilan serta dapat mencapai target net zero emission pada tahun 2060 atau lebih cepat. Kami mengajak para praktisi di sektor pertanian untuk dapat memanfaatkan potensi tenaga surya untuk pertanian di Indonesia. Mari bersama-sama menciptakan masa depan yang lebih hijau, lebih berkelanjutan, dan lebih sejahtera bagi seluruh masyarakat Indonesia. Bapak, Ibu, para panelis, dan peserta yang kami hormati, sebagai penutup, mari kita panjatkan doa, semoga kegiatan webinar ini terselenggara dengan baik. Tidak lupa, saya menyampaikan ucapan terima kasih kepada pemerintah Swiss melalui Renewable Energy Skills Development atau RSD Project, dan Agrospace atas dukungannya dalam penyelenggaraan webinar kali ini. Terima kasih juga kepada para narasumber, para panelis dan peserta. Semoga Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Tuhan Yang Maha Kuasa, senantiasa memberikan petunjuk dan merahmati setiap langkah dan upaya kita. Dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrohmanirrohim, kegiatan webinar PPSDM KEBTKE yang kedua di tahun 2024, saya nyatakan dibuka secara resmi. Sekian dan terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Bapak Kapus yang telah membuka secara resmi webinar pada siang hari ini. Baik, Bapak Ibu, Mas Mbak dan Sobat Energi sekalian, PPSDM KEBTKE telah meluluskan lebih dari 20.000 alumni dan telah menerapkan pengetahuan dan kompetensinya di sektor KEBTKE. PPSDM KEBTKE memberikan pelayanan publik melalui pelatihan dan sertifikasi untuk aparatur, masyarakat umum, juga pengelola industri di sektor ketenaga listrikan, energi baru terbarukan, dan konservasi energi. Juga memberikan jasa konsultasi dan audit energi pada industri bangunan gedung, serta kerjasama di bidang KEBTKE lainnya. Untuk Sobat Energi yang ingin tahu lebih lanjut soal PPSDM KEBTKE, boleh di-follow di sosial media kami, juga dikunjungi website kami di ppsdmkebtke.esdm.go.id. Sebelum berlanjut, kami mau menginfokan bahwa tersedia bantuan interpreter. Nah, Sobat tinggal klik saja di bagian bawah layar Zoom Anda yang ada ikon bola dunia atau globe. Di kanan bawah, lalu tinggal pilih channel bahasa yang diinginkan. Ada bahasa Indonesia dan bahasa Inggris. Nah, kami juga mau menginfokan nih, biar tambah semangat, sekalian ngabuburit nih Mbak Dian, akan ada kuis seru berhadiah selama webinar berlangsung. Ada 4 pemenang yang akan mendapatkan hadiah dari RISD. Caranya bagaimana? Nanti ada panduan dari Mbak Dian sebagai moderator sepanjang webinar berlangsung. Jadi jangan sampai lewat. Hari ini selain kita dapat hadiah, juga pasti dapat ilmu yang bermanfaat karena narasumbernya langsung dari Swiss ya Mbak Dian. Dan para pemenang akan diumumkan di akhir acara webinar. Baiklah, acara selanjutnya tanpa berpanjang lebar akan saya serahkan kepada moderator kita siang hari ini, Ibu Dian Elvira Rosa selaku Deputy Team Leader Proyek RISD. Mari beri tepuk tangan virtual yang paling meriah untuk para narasumber dan moderator siang hari ini. Kepada Ibu Dian, waktu dan tempat kami persilakan. Silakan.
Terima kasih banyak Mbak Endah. Izin memulai Pak Edi. Baik. Selamat siang Ibu, Bapak, Mas, Mbak, peserta webinar yang saya hormati, pejabat Kementerian SDM, dan juga kementerian lainnya yang tidak dapat saya sebutkan satu persatu. Perkenalkan, nama saya Dian Elvira Rosa sebagai moderator pada sesi siang hari ini dari proyek Renewable Energy Skills Development, yaitu kerjasama pembangunan antara BPSDM, SDM, dan pemerintah Swiss, State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, SECO. Salam sehat, salam semangat kepada Bapak Ibu semua, dan terima kasih banyak sudah bergabung. Sampai saat ini sudah lebih dari 300 peserta, semoga terus bertambah lagi. Dan semoga semuanya penuh semangat, tetap penuh energi meskipun sedang berpuasa, bagi yang berpuasa. Karena topik kita pada siang hari ini sangat-sangat menarik, yaitu Agri-Photovoltaics sebagai salah satu alternatif teknologi energi terbarukan. Kita akan menyimak pengalaman dari Swiss, khususnya dari Agroscope, sebagai suatu lembaga riset di bawah Kementerian Pertanian Swiss. Baiklah Bapak Ibu, langsung saja sekarang saya ingin memasuki inti dari acara, yaitu paparan dari narasumber. Telah hadir bersama kita narasumber ahli Agri-Photovoltaik dari Swiss, ini live langsung dari Swiss, Bapak Jocelyn Whitmer. Welcome, Jocelyn. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and we're really looking forward to your presentation and discussion later.
Thank you very much, Jan. So warm welcome from me from Switzerland. I'm really delighted and honored to be present today to present you this topic, so the potential of agri-photovoltaics and the experiences we have from Switzerland, the first results, and this wonderful topic.
Thank you.
So let's.
Maybe I'll introduce a little bit about yourself first to the audience. In Indonesian. Jadi Bapak Jocelyn ini merupakan peneliti ya, saintis di Agroscope, yaitu pusat keunggulan atau Center of Excellence pemerintah Konfederasi Swiss, khusus untuk penelitian di bidang pertanian. Di Agroscope, beliau memimpin bidang penelitian Agri-Photovoltaics sejak Februari 2023 hingga sekarang. Dan latar belakang pendidikan beliau adalah Master in Life Sciences dari Bern University of Applied Sciences, Switzerland, di mana tesis yang beliau tulis itu fokus pada sistem agri-fotovoltaik untuk buah-buahan, khususnya stroberi dan raspberry. Nanti pas presentasi akan disampaikan dalam bahasa Inggris, tapi sekali lagi mengingatkan bahwa tersedia penerjemahan simultan ke dalam bahasa Indonesia. Bagi Bapak Ibu silakan klik tombol dunia di bagian bawah layar Zoom masing-masing dan pilih bahasa yang diinginkan. Dan selama paparan, Bapak Ibu kami persilahkan untuk mengajukan pertanyaan secara tertulis melalui chat box. Jadi di chat box Q&A, silakan apabila ada pertanyaan. Nanti di akhir acara akan saya umumkan 3 penanya terbaik yang akan mendapatkan hadiah e-money dari proyek ARISD. Lumayan e-money ya, bisa dipakai buat tol. Akan ada juga kuis seru berhadiah di tengah paparan nanti. Nanti pertanyaannya dari Bapak Jocelyn, tapi nanti saya yang akan membawakan. Alright, we will now start the presentation. So Jocelyn, you can share your screen directly and operate your PowerPoint. So floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you very much. Okay. Can you see the presentation?
Yep, we can see it. Perfect.
Great. Thank you very much. So welcome everyone to this wonderful topic about agri-photovoltaics, and the thematic will be the potential of agri-photovoltaics to maximize fruits and crops production with the experiences we have in Switzerland. So first of all, I will just say some words about Agroscope. So Agroscope is a Swiss Center of Excellence for Agricultural Research and is affiliated with the Federal Office of Agriculture. So it's a public agency. We have financing with the public and the private sector. So it's really like public agency for the farmers. We have no competition with private sector. We are really here for the farmers, so we work for the farmers and not for the private sector. We work with the private sector on some topics, for example, for agrivoltaics, but it's always the goal is always for the farmers. So we have several sites in Switzerland, and I'm here in Comté, so in the south part of Switzerland. As you can see here, we have about 10 sites in all Switzerland. All the sites are linked to a special topic. For example, the ones in Comté is for the berries production. And this is where we have the installation for agri-photovoltaics in Switzerland regarding the research with Agroscopes mostly. So the research of Agroscope is along all the entire value chain of agriculture and the food sector. So it's a really broad topic. And the goal is to develop and transmitting knowledge to the farmers, but also to the publics, legislations, and so on. So we have research and development, decision-making basis, legal task also, and knowledge exchange and transfer, technology transfer, which is probably the most important part. If you want to find out more about Agroscope, you can click on those links after, and you will have a lot of information about Agroscope, how it's work. I will just share this one, just to have a bit more insight about Agroscope. So we are more than 1,000 employees here at Agroscope. We are a lot of people there. We have PhD candidates, we have master thesis also students, and so on. So we are really a lot of people, and we have several topics, and those are some challenges we are facing in Switzerland. So also for Indonesia, the climatic change with regarding agriculture, the protection of natural resources, and so on. So we have a really broad subject in the research topic. So we will see on this side some insight about Agroscope. I won't go more here, but just to know that we are important research center for Switzerland, and we also have some works. I will show you a map. Like, where is it now? Here. You have here a map with all the current research that are done by Agroscope in Switzerland, for example, but also in Europe and sometimes, for example, in China. So we have also partner area in all of the world. So it's not only Switzerland, it's also a broader vision for Agroscope. But now let's move to the topic. So the content of my presentation will be first a general context. So what is the general context regarding agri-photovoltaics, regarding the agriculture and the climate change. Then I will move on to what is actually agri-photovoltaics. After that, we have the short quiz. And after the short quiz, I will go a little bit more in the topic with the technology available, what are the benefits and the limitations of these technologies, or those technologies. After that, you will have all the experiences from Switzerland. So what are the financing model, the legal framework, and all the projects and the results we already have here in Switzerland. And finally, I will speak a little bit the potential application in Indonesia, so more related to Indonesia with the background I have in Switzerland. So first, the general context. So as you know, we have the climate change. We have also the development of the world's population. So there is new challenges for agriculture and the food production sector. We know that the global warming is of plus 1.5 degrees Celsius is expected. In some countries, such as Switzerland, it's sometimes even more, 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius. We also will have more extreme weather events, such as heat waves, droughts, or heavy precipitation. And finally, we have an increase of the global food production, but the area for agriculture is always the same, so we cannot increase the land for agriculture. So this is the first problematic we have with the global context, with the agriculture sector. And then we also have a second topic, which is the increase of the global energy consumption. So it is known that it will be doubling by the mid-century, of which 50% will be only for electricity production. So we need to have more, we need to produce more energy, but we don't have a lot of area, the land to produce there. And if you want to produce electricity, you need to have more lands. So we have done a competition between electricity production and food production and the agricultural sector. And to address this problem, this competition, we can use agri-photovoltaics or agri-PV. You will see later that actually we have several words for this topic. So the goal will be to combine energy production and food production on the same land. So this might be a solution to those problems, so the climate change and the increase of the consumption of energy. And we need to increase the renewable energy production, actually. We won't produce more energy from oil or for gas and so on. So what is agri-photovoltaics? So agri-photovoltaics is the simultaneous use of an area for the production of photovoltaic solar energy and for agriculture. So the goal is to combine the production of energy with solar panels and agriculture, so food production on the same land. Here you can see two pictures from the laws in Germany, sorry, where they define two categories. The first one is the dual use of land. It's where you have the crops here on the middle, and then you have the panels on top of the plants, crops. So it's could be trees, it could be weeds, so big or small plants there. So actually you have the panels on the plant. But it's also possible to have a parallel use of the panels and the agriculture, and there you have the panels not directly on the crop, but on the side of the crops, and there you have the panels where they produce electricity. There are little influence on the crops, but not a lot. And you have still place, for example, to have machinery and so on. So those are the, I would say, the general categories we have, but actually we have several possibilities. You will see later that it's not only those categories. It's very, depending on where you are, the farmers and so on, you can really do what you want actually. So here are some pictures of agri-photovoltaics, and actually agri-photovoltaics is one name, but usually in English we use agri-voltaics. In Switzerland we use most agri-photovoltaics. This is why I use it here in the topic, but you also find this topic on the agro-photovoltaics or PV agriculture, agro-PV and solar sharing. So we have a lot of names that actually refer to the same thing, which is the use of panels for agriculture and on agricultural land. You can see here, for example, a first picture. So it's a greenhouse with strawberries. And as you can see, you have panels there in the structure, actually. So you produce here energy and electricity. You shade also the plants, so you need to take this into account. I will speak about a bit more later about this. But you also leave some spaces, so from some lights to the plants, then they can produce photosynthesis and of course produce fruits and food, because this is what we want. We want to produce food and, if possible, to produce also electricity. This is definitely the goal of agri-photovoltaics. Produce foods first, and after, if possible, energy production also. So this is one possibility. This is a static system, so it doesn't move. You can also have this system on top right. So those are also panels. So those panels are dynamic, so they can move with the solar. So you can have a tracking system. You can then maximize production, energy production, for example, and also maybe reduce the impact of the panels on the crops. And here the crop, sorry, is goji, if I'm correct. I think this one is in China. This one I didn't remember where the pictures were took. This picture is from Netherlands. So it's a very important installation in the Netherlands. It's raspberries production under panels, but those panels you cannot really see here, but there are semi-transparent panels. So they are not the same as those. You leave also some lights to the plants directly in the panels. So you will see later some examples, but this is also a technology which is available. So you have panels where the light can go through, and part of the panels where the energy can be produced with solar cells. And so here it's Netherlands with raspberries. And there on right, I think it's in Italy. So it's also a dynamic system as this one. And here it's on grapes. So it's also the same to protect the crops from, for example, heat waves or hail and so on. So globally, you can see that we have several types of culture of crops. It's not only one. We have perennial crops as grapes and goji, but you can also have annual crops such as strawberries and raspberries. So the topic is not only about one crops. It's really, you can, on the basis, you can put it on all the crops you want. It's not really true, but it's still possible. Technically, it's possible. And you already see here that we have several systems, so we don't have only one. You need to adapt your system depending on where you are, the crops you have, and so on. So you have here a small insight about agri-photovoltaics. I won't go a little more now on the topic, we will do first the quiz, and after the quiz, we will go more inside about the topic. I really want to show you first the general context. We have the problem of the climate change. We need to increase the electricity production to solve the problem. We have agri-photovoltaics. Agri-photovoltaics is the dual use of land for energy production and food production. And there you can see some examples on this trip. So first, we can move and just do the short quiz. And after the quiz, we can go more inside in the topic. Just for you here, so it's pictures from Switzerland, so where we conduct some research in Conte. So this is one pilot plant that we have in Switzerland in Conte. You can see here it's about 4,000 meters square for raspberries and strawberries production. So this is one of the pilot plants we have in Switzerland, just to know. Maybe Jan, I hand over to you for the quiz, and after I can go back to the presentation, if it's fine for you.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So I will take over for momentarily for the quiz. So I will start sharing my screen. Bapak Ibu, kita akan quiz dulu tentang agri-photovoltaik. Tadi sudah ada sedikit penjelasannya dari Pak Joslin. Silakan bergabung melalui Mentimeter, menti.com. Dan di sini ini ya kita kenalan dulu ya. Jadi di mana lokasi Bapak Ibu sekarang berada? Gitu, kita pengen tahu nih peserta webinar hari ini itu dari mana saja. Saya tunggu ya. Oke, ada dari Bontang, dari Kalimantan Timur, Yogyakarta, Jayapura, Batam, Aceh, luar biasa ini. Paling banyak dari Jakarta ya, tapi luar biasa ada dari Bali, Bengkulu, Semarang, Padang. Wow, oke. Ada 50 yang sudah bergabung, dari Malang juga ada, Palembang, Tangerang. Dari Lampung ada nggak nih? Saya dari orang Lampung nih aslinya. Oke, maybe kita tunggu sampai sekitar 100 ya. Saya tunggu sebentar lagi. Silakan. Gresik, Pontianak, Kupang, ini betul-betul ya, seluruh Indonesia. So Jocelyn, we have so many participants from across Indonesia, not just in Jakarta, but from all over Indonesia. It's amazing. Oke, sebentar lagi saya mulai kuisnya ya. Swiss Van Java atau Garut boleh juga nih. Garut, Swiss Van Java ya. Oke, sudah ada 98 yang join. Oke, lebih dari 100 ya. Oke, saya mulai. Nah. Oke. Kita mulai. Jangan lupa tulis nama ya. Tulis nama sebelum ikut menjawab kuisnya supaya nanti ketahuan nih yang menang siapa. Oke, kita mulai. Ini cepet-cepetan ya jawabnya. Jadi siapa yang cepat dan benar akan mendapatkan poin yang lebih banyak. Apa alasan utama untuk mengintegrasikan pertanian dengan produksi energi surya dalam sistem agri-voltaik? Silakan lihat HP-nya masing-masing ya buat jawabannya. Pilih jawabannya, ada beberapa detik lagi. Meningkatkan hasil panen, memberikan pendapatan tambahan, mengurangi emisi gas, mengoptimalkan penggunaan lahan. Jawaban yang benar apa ini? Oke, ini mungkin yang menjawab baru sedikit ya. Apakah kecepatan ini Bapak Ibu? Kalau kecepatan saya izin edit sebentar ya. Mungkin waktunya saya perbanyak supaya menjawabnya bisa lebih santai ya. Saya izin ya. Tadi saya kasih waktu masing-masing itu 20 detik Sekarang saya tambahin deh. Sorry, Jocelyn, I am adjusting the time for each question because it seems that participants need more time. Oke. Ini supaya lebih enak ngejawabnya ya, Bapak Ibu. Izin. Oke, tadi kita lanjutkan lagi. Oke, ini pertanyaan keduanya ya. Mari kita mulai. Jadi jangan lupa siapa yang lebih cepat dan benar akan mendapatkan poin yang lebih. Bagaimana agrivoltaik berkontribusi terhadap efisiensi penggunaan lahan? Mengurangi jumlah lahan yang dibutuhkan untuk pertanian dan produksi energi surya, mengurangi luas lahan yang dibutuhkan untuk pertanian, memungkinkan terjadinya perluasan wilayah perkotaan menjadi wilayah pertanian, dan mendorong praktik pertanian monokultur. Mana yang benar? Bagaimana agrivoltaik berkontribusi terhadap efisiensi penggunaan lahan? Oke, ya betul sekali. Jawaban yang benar adalah mengurangi jumlah lahan yang dibutuhkan untuk pertanian dan produksi energi surya. Ada 71 yang benar. Selamat. Oke, pertanyaan ketiga. Ada 113 player. Oke, ini jadi cepet-cepetan jawabnya ya. Jadi silakan langsung lihat layar HP masing-masing. Peran apa yang dapat dilakukan oleh agrivoltaik dalam meningkatkan ketahanan pangan? Meningkatkan umur simpan hasil panen. B. Mengurangi ketergantungan pada bahan bakar fosil dalam transportasi pangan, membatasi penyebaran penyakit tanaman, atau diversifikasi praktik pertanian dan meningkatkan ketahanan terhadap perubahan iklim. Yang mana yang benar? Peranan dari agrivoltaik. Oke, iya, yang benar 8 orang, diversifikasi praktik pertanian. Oke, yang lainnya ada 100-an peserta, ini yang jawab baru sedikit. Ayo, jangan sampai ketinggalan ya. Next question. Siapa nih yang sekarang lagi ada di leaderboard? Oke, mari kita tunggu siapa ini yang sedang leading. Oke, Temi. Atas nama Temi ya, sekarang sedang nomor 1, nomor 2 Fanny, Yusiran William, dan Hagia Lubis. Oke, jangan sampai ketinggalan ya Bapak Ibu. Next. Pertanyaan keempat. Apa peran panel surya dalam agrivoltaik selain pembangkit listrik? Ayo. Yang pertama, memberikan dukungan struktural untuk teralis tanaman, bertindak sebagai tempat bertengger burung untuk mengendalikan hama, ya, supaya burung-burung bisa nongkrong di panel suryanya. Memfasilitasi pengumpulan air untuk irigasi, dan menciptakan iklim mikro yang teduh dan bermanfaat bagi tanaman tertentu. Yang benar yang mana ini? Antara A, B, C, D. Oke, yang benar betul sekali. Yang pilihan terakhir ya. Menciptakan iklim mikro yang teduh dan bermanfaat bagi tanaman tertentu. Selamat 74 orang benar. Next question, nomor 5. Oke. Siapa cepat dan benar dapat poin yang lebih banyak. Faktor manakah yang penting untuk menentukan keberhasilan sistem agrivoltaik di berbagai wilayah? Kira-kira apa nih yang penting? Rata-rata suhu tahunan, rata-rata kecepatan angin, tingkat iradiasi atau irradiance matahari, atau pola curah hujan tahunan. Mana nih yang paling penting antara opsi di bawah ini? Silakan dipilih. 3, 2, 1. Jawaban yang benar adalah iya, betul sekali. Ini hampir semua benar ya, tingkat iradiasi atau irradiance levels dari matahari. Berikutnya. Ini pertanyaan ke-6 ya, hampir selesai kita. Oke, berikutnya pertanyaannya adalah tantangan apa yang mungkin dihadapi petani ketika menerapkan agrivoltaik? Yang paling penting ya, tantangannya yang paling berat itu mungkin ya. Menurunnya hasil panen karena naungan atau bayangan yang berlebihan. Terbatasnya akses terhadap subsidi pertanian. Biaya di muka yang lebih tinggi dibandingkan dengan metode pertanian tradisional, dan opsi terakhir, kesulitan dalam menjaga tingkat kelembapan tanah. Ayo, ini kira-kira yang mana ini yang paling penting faktornya dalam menentukan pakai agrivoltaik atau tidak? Oke, ini jawaban yang benar tadi kok tidak kelihatan ya? Sebentar. Mohon maaf, ini ada isu ya, koneksi saya. Mohon maaf ini banyak kendala hari ini. Sebentar ya Bapak Ibu, mohon kesabarannya. Technical issue. Mohon maaf. Sekarang sedang bergabung lagi. Sorry, Jocelyn, for some reason, I'm having some issues with my Mentimeter. Okay. Oke. Ya, mohon maaf. Apakah sudah bisa dilihat lagi layar saya?
Belum terlihat, Mbak Dian.
Oh, belum terlihat ya. Oke.
Betul. Sudah kelihatan.
Udah ya, oke. Maaf sekali Bapak Ibu. Oke, jadi tadi jawaban yang benar adalah biaya di muka ya, jadi biaya yang cukup tinggi. Oke, nextnya. Sekarang lihat dulu ya, kita leaderboard tadi yang memimpin adalah ini kayaknya Mbak ya, Mbak Temi kali ya. Nah, sekarang siapa nih yang memimpin? Apakah masih Mbak Temi? Aduh, kalah nih kayaknya jatuh nih. Yang sekarang memimpin adalah Pak Yusiran, lalu Bapak William dan Bapak Julio Victorio Sibarani. Oke, selamat. Next ya. Pertanyaan ke-7. Jenis tanaman apa yang paling cocok untuk sistem agrivoltaik? Oke, lihat layar masing-masing. Tanaman yang tidak toleran terhadap naungan atau bayangan, tanaman yang membutuhkan air, tanaman tahan kekeringan, dan tanaman yang tahan naungan atau bayangan. Kira-kira ini yang tepat yang mana, yang paling cocok untuk sistem agri-PV? Lima, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oke, jawaban yang benar adalah yang terakhir, betul sekali. Paling banyak yang benar ya, tanaman yang tahan naungan atau bayangan. Next, pertanyaannya, ini pertanyaan ke-8 dari 9 pertanyaan. Jenis tanaman apa yang cocok untuk ditanam dalam sistem agrivoltaik karena kemampuannya untuk tumbuh subur di lingkungan yang teduh? Tadi kan jawabannya yang benar adalah tanaman yang bisa ini ya, tahan bayangan. Nah, ini jenisnya apa nih contohnya? Tomat, selada, jagung, bunga matahari, kira-kira apa? Oke, selada yang benar. Oke. Dan ini pertanyaan terakhir ya Bapak Ibu. Ada 95 peserta pemain kuisnya. Siapa nih yang akan menang? Ini pertanyaan terakhir. Siapa cepat dan benar dapat poin lebih. Apa salah satu potensi kelemahan sistem agrivoltaik untuk jenis tanaman tertentu? Yang pertama, meningkatnya kerentanan terhadap hama dan penyakit, berkurangnya akses terhadap penyerbuk, menurunkan retensi kelembapan tanah, dan atau peningkatan resiko akibat hujan es? Yang mana itu dari 4 opsi tersebut? Oke, ini nanti pemenangnya hanya ada 1 orang dan nanti dapat hadiah souvenir menarik dari AriSD. Nanti setelah selesai acara kita akan hubungi ya. Oke, yang benar adalah, ini kayaknya banyak yang terkecoh nih. Meningkatnya kerentanan terhadap hama dan penyakit. Oke, siapa ini pemenangnya? Mari kita lihat. Apakah Yusiran? Apakah William? Apakah Hagia Lubis? Siapa ini? Oke, yeay, selamat kepada Bapak Yusiran ya sebagai pemenang. Nanti mohon untuk nanti kita akan chat ya dan mohon untuk mengisi feedback form supaya kami bisa menghubungi Bapak untuk hadiah menarik. Oke, silahkan. I return the floor to you, Jocelyn. That was a fun and interesting quiz, I hope. And thank you for the questions from your side.
Thank you for the quiz. Okay, so let's share again my screen. Up. And I will go back there. Oops, sorry. Oh, yeah, now that quiz is done, it's fine. Can you see the presentation and hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see the presentation.
Great, thank you. So now we'll go a bit more in the topic, in depth of the topic. So with the first, the technology we have, and after the experiences from Switzerland, and finally some insights or some input from my side for Indonesia. So first of all, with the technology, I spoke before about the legislation in Germany. Here you can have also 3 types of installation that you can have with Agri-Photovoltaics. So the first one is interspread PV arrays. So you have here the panels on side of the crops. In green here you have the crops. Then again a row with panels and the crops and so on. So this is the first type of agri-photovoltaics we have. The second one is the greenhouse mounted PV arrays. So you can see here a box. So the box is representing a greenhouse. And in the greenhouse, in the structure of the greenhouse, you put also panels on the top. So you have your greenhouse, your structure, and you add some panels. So instead of having glass where the lights can go through, you have panels on some rows, not everywhere because you won't have a lot of light then for the plants, but still you can have some panels on greenhouses and have some plants under to produce food, of course, and energy. The third possibility is to have a stilt mountain PV arrays. It's as this one we have in Pompe. So you have a structure which is on top of the plants and the panels are directly on the top. So it's not the same as the first one. The first one you have really panels and beside the panels you have your crops. Here it's like for the greenhouse, you have the panels on top of the crops. So you have the land is for the crops and on the top you have the panels. It's such as for agroforestry where you have several steps. So you have the crops and then the trees and so on. So it's basically more or less the same vision as agroforestry, even if it's not the same. I don't say that agroforestry and agri-PV is the same. It's just that a general thought about this is that you can put panels on top of the crops. So those are the 3 technologies or the 3 implementation that you can have with agri-PV with crops. Now, if we speak directly about the panels, you can have static or dynamic system. So a static system is where the panels doesn't move, so they are always at the same place on top of the crops. Here's an example with raspberries in the Netherlands, in Babberich. So the drawbacks of this system is that you have a fixed transparency on the crop. So you cannot manage the light that go through the plants. It's always the same, so you cannot change this. It's changing with the sun, but not directly with the structure. One benefit is that it's a very light supporting structure, so it's very small pieces. It's very like cheap structure, and the system is without motorization. And you can have also dynamic system. So dynamic system, you can have, for example, mobile panels, such as the firm in France, Sonagri. They produce panels where they can move with an algorithm. So for example, during the day when it's very hot, you can put the panels on top of the crops to protect the plants, to shade the plants, and to reduce, for example, the temperature to the crops. But for example, during the spring or the autumn, you want to have more light to the plants, so then you can move your panels and let more light go to the plants. Or for example, you can also move the panel during the night, and then you can avoid maybe frost, or you can have also the same during the day to avoid disease with hail, for example. So this is directly the panel which is moving on top of the plants. But you can also have fixed panel, but something that is moving in the panel or with the panel. For example, this is the second installation we have here in Conte. So those are fixed panel as the first one here. But as you can see here, there is a small white thing, and this thing is a screen, and we can move the screen on top of the plants, so we can open it or close it, and then we can also adjust the light that goes to the plants. We can adjust a little bit the temperature and so on. The drawbacks of the dynamic system is that, first of all, it's technically more complex. Then the support structure is often heavier, and this will increase the cost of your installation. But the benefits of this system is that the transparency is adaptable according to the species, the phenological stage, the climate, and so on. So the advantage is that you can, for example, produce during 1 year raspberries, the next year wheat, after strawberries, for example. This is easier to manage the crops with this system, but it's the costs are higher with those systems. And I would say that the drawbacks of the dynamic system is the advantages of the static system, which is, for example, the cost. And the drawback of the static system, which is the fixed transparency, is one advantage for the dynamic system because you can change as you want. So this is the two systems that you can have with panels, so static or dynamic one. So this is the first step, I would say. The second step is the panel you use. Here you can see several types of panels. You have, for example, opaque panels here, so panels with full solar cells, which is different from the ones I showed you before. Here you can see, for example, on this one, you have solar cells and also glass. So you have a semi-transparent panel here, as the one we are using with the Insula Green installation. So you have semi-transparent panel, but you can also have opaque panel where all the panel is used to produce energy. So those panels are put on a greenhouse. Those ones are also on top of a greenhouse, but they are dynamic. They can move as you want. You can have also vertical panels, so it's also possibilities. And the last one here on the top, on the bottom right, sorry, it's still panels, it's still photovoltaic panels, but in those panels you add a special layer, and with this layer you can change actually the wavelength of the light. And they are red because you change the infrared light to photosynthetic light for the plants. So you can change the wavelength of the light to produce more energy and to put more light to the plants. It's also a possibility. So you have a lot of technology with the panels. There is a lot of possibilities. We can just do what we want actually with the panels. There are no limitation, I will say. The limitation will be about the cost and the technical feasibility if we can repeat the feasibility. But in my mind, I spoke with also people in Switzerland where they produce also panels and they have the knowledge in the panels. They told me we can do what we want actually. It's really possible to do what we want and to adapt the system with the land, with the crops and so on. Also, I didn't mention, for example, those panels, they are bifacial. So they can produce energy on both sides of the panel, which is not the same for those ones, for example, on top of the greenhouses, so on the bottom left. So really, we have a lot of technology available. Now, we use lights from the sun, but how is it possible to combine energy production and food production? And there we have also competition between the photosynthesis of the plants and the electricity production. So what you need to know is that for photosynthesis, we speak about the photosynthetically active radiation, which is the PAR. It's the light that the plant can use to produce photosynthesis to grow. It's determined by absorption spectra and by pigments. And on the other side, you have the electricity production. And the electricity production is depending on the light intensity. It can be specific or full spectra. So you don't have any limitation with the energy production. You can use all the spectrum from the photosynthesis to produce energy. And as you can see here on your right, you have the visible light here, which is more or less the power for the plant. You have here the solar spectrum at ground level, so it's all the light that reaching the ground level. The plants will absorb here. You can see the absorption curves of the plants. So they absorb more in the blue and a little bit in the green, and also after more in the red. So the plants will use more of the light in the red and the blue to produce photosynthesis. So this is typically the specificity of the plants. They need to have a good quality of the light and a good quantity of light to produce biomass. But for electricity, it is not the same. Electricity can use all the solar spectrum. So, for example, you can have solar panels that will produce energy with the wavelengths in the green and the yellow, for example, and leave all the others for the plants. So this is where we can actually combine those, because photosynthesis use the quality and the quantity of light, but solar panels use only the quantity of light. The quality is not important for the panels. So this is where we can combine both production. On the bottom left, you can see a small line curve here. On the x-axis, you have the light intensity, the PAR, and on the y-axis, you have the CO2 assimilation. And as you can see, it's increasing. So it's a typical light response for the plants. And the goal will be to keep part of the PAR for the plant that it can produce photosynthesis after food for us. And the surplus will be for electricity production. So this is why we can combine both systems, so energy production and food production. Now we speak about the advantages of agri-photovoltaics. First of all is to protect the crops from extreme climatic periods such as rain, hail, heat stress, and so on. One advantage would be also to replace the plastic tunnels. For example, it's the goal for Switzerland is to place plastic tunnels or some greenhouses with solar panels on top of the crops. You can collect also the rainwater. You can reduce the evaporation and lower the water demand on the crops. So both are linked. You can use the water you collect, and then you can also lower the needs for the plants. Also, something which is important, but sometimes not really put on the first place, is that you can improve the climatic condition, of course, for the plants, but also for the staff who works under those installations. Nowadays, I think it's it's also social with the agri-photovoltaics. It's not only about crops, it's also part with the social, with people and so on. You can also improve social acceptance of covered cropping, because you say, okay, I cover my plants, but I also produce energy, so I also have a benefits to do this. For the farmers, it can provide additional financial income with the energy production or the rent of the area. It's also possible. And finally, of course, you produce sustainable electricity. Now, some challenges. So those challenges are more linked to, for example, for Switzerland, but I think you can also have some hints for Indonesia and links with Indonesia. First of all, you need to know that it's a major investment for farmers, for everyone which is involved in the project. Second, for Switzerland, for example, we must be near an electricity connection, because otherwise the cost will increase. And it is very important to know that when you build an agrivoltaic system and you want to connect to the electricity connection, to the electricity system, if you are very far away from this, the cost will increase very, very fast. So be careful with this. Secondly, it's sometimes difficult to implement everywhere. So it's not all possible to have everywhere agri-photovoltaics. For example, in Switzerland, we will never have agri-photovoltaics in the mountains. It's just technically sunshine all the year round. So we will see later some map on this topic. Sometimes it's also difficult to transpose results from site to another, some from 1 year to another year also. So it's like sometimes difficult to say, okay, for example, we have this year a good harvest with the raspberries, next year it would be the same. Maybe not, but this is agriculture actually. With all crops, it's usually the same. 1 year may be very good, and the next one you have frost or hail, and then you have a bad harvest. One challenge is also regarding the technology. You have a lot on the market, but which one is the best for the farmer? Which one is the best for your location? Also, we want to limit the decrease in the yields and the change in the product taste. And finally, which is something which is very important for Switzerland, is the social acceptance of agri-photovoltaics. So this is maybe it's the same in Indonesia, I don't know, but for Switzerland, we really love our mountains, we really love the nature, and sometimes it's difficult for us to build such system. It is estimated, so from my side in Switzerland, that it's 0.8 till 2.5 million USD dollar per hectare. It's always depending on the system, row spacings, and
Recording in
complicated,
progress.
but since the first 2 years of 2022, the PV installation are now considered by site bound if they produce an advantages for the agricultural production. It might be regarding the yield, the protection of the crops, and so on. So it's not directly linked to the yield of the plants. It may be also, for example, the quality. But this is the first thing. And the second one is on the crop rotation areas. Agri-PV must lead to a higher yield in crop production. So there we have the yield which is involved in the topic. To know for you the low sensitivity of a structure is that we are also already buildings around your installation. So it's a very, we want to protect the nature in Switzerland. So, and the mountains and so on. So we want to put agri-photovoltaics only near some others. And so you need to have the approval from the authorities if you want to build an agri-PV system, if you are on land for agricultural land. Also, I didn't mention, so you can build an agri-PV installation if you have an advantages for the crops, or if it's related to research purposes, as we are currently doing with Agroscope. So this is actually now the legal situation for Switzerland. So we protect a lot, actually, the land in Switzerland. We protect a lot, so we can do agri-PV where we want in Switzerland, actually. Now the research question we have, it's which berry and fruit species are best sweets in Switzerland? What are the optimum degrees of shade? Is it possible to achieve compare yield and quality? And are agri-photovoltaics installation profitable? We have several partners. You have a school, you have institution, legal institution, you have a private sector also, such as Insolite, Megasol. You have energy, a reseller, Romand Energy, Swiss Solar, and you have farmers, Solberry and Bioschmidt, for example. So we have a lot of partners involved in our projects. And we have several supports. Mostly it's linked to the Swiss Confederation, but you have public supports and private supports. For example, COP and Migros are the two most important resellers for food in Switzerland for the people in Switzerland. Now, why combine agri-PV with berry production? The question where we have berries in Switzerland, they are already protected with in greenhouses or in plastic tunnels. And in this research from Lau et al., you can see that berries can tolerate or even benefit from shading. So this is why we wanted to see if it's possible to combine, berries with energy production. Also, berries, it's a crop that maybe tolerate more the shade, and they are already produced in under protect installation. Here you can see some pilot plant we have in Switzerland. So I'm here currently in Comté. So we have now 3 installations there. Maybe we will have a 4th one on apple trees and apricots. It's not yet built, but it's in the planning stage. You have this one with berries, with raspberries and strawberries already built, and the 3rd one is here with berries also. So here you can see some projects in Switzerland. Most of them are currently in the planning stage. As I told you, it's yet difficult for us in Switzerland to build agri-PV installations. So we already have 3. It's already a lot for us. It's small installation. Regarding Indonesia, for example, I think if I speak about 4,000 meters square, it's very small installation. But for us in Switzerland, it's very important, those type of installation. So as you can see, we mostly will produce with berries, so raspberries, strawberries, blueberries also, and sometimes with palm fruits, such as apple, or stone fruits with apricots. So if you want to go a little bit more, we have here a network with Agri-PV, so you can just take a picture of this and of the QR code and have the link to go to see this. So as I told you, we have on-farm production. So this year we'll compare strawberries and raspberries to our farmers. So this is one installation. You can see here for the strawberries and there for the raspberries. It's a very low-cost installation. So you have the panels, a very small infrastructure, and probably the efficiency is very important regarding the financing. You have 2 types of panels, one with the 50%, this one 50% of shade, and this one is 40% of shade. So this is the one installation. The second one, which will be very interesting, is this one. It's also to a farmer. It's still currently under construction. We will do a scientific monitoring from this year till 2026. And there we will have 3 different PV installation. The first one will be AgroTrack, so it's solar modules with the dynamic system. The Insular Green system, which is a static structure, which is actually the same as we are now in Comté. And the last one is AgroVerti, it's the structure built by the farmers directly. So there you have bifacial panel directly on top of the crops. And we will see this year and the next 3 years how the the raspberries here actually are growing the production and so on. So it will be very interesting for us to look at those three systems compared to a typical one. Finally, in Conte, we have those three installations. I will go a little bit, I'll move a little bit faster here because the time is running. But you can see we have a small one of 165 meters square. The second one is 200 meters square of PV. And the last one we built is a bit bigger, around 4,000 meters square. So it's always raspberries and strawberries production for us. The installation a bit different. Here you have the dynamic management in the panel. There, the light is managed with the screen. So we compare several systems. In our experiments, we had the open field, so no cover on the crops, plastic greenhouse, or plastic tunnel, which are the typical production in Switzerland for raspberries and respectively strawberries. And we have also insular green system, so panel and plastic umbrella, which is also classic production system in Switzerland. So we start in 2021 the experiments, and last year we conducted also experiment with raspberries and strawberries. So if I go a bit deeper with the strawberries, in 2022 we have done an experiment with an ever-bearing strawberry Karima. As you can see here in the red, it's the production, so the yield of the plants under the plastic tunnel, and in blue under the PV. You can see a really strong decrease of the yield. This was due firstly because of the variety, because Karima actually is a variety that needs a lot of light. But also we have seen that the panels reduce the leaf area, and we had fewer inflorescence per production cycle and a delay in the flowering. So all those three stuff combined we had a decrease of the yield, of approximately 50% of the total yield and the marketable, which is very important. And this is not possible with an agri-photovoltaic system and with the financing model. So this was the first experiment we have done. And after that, last year, we have done with Jolie and Fleur two summer varieties. And there, as you can see, the decrease in yield is less important. So you have the P on the left, the umbrellas, which is a typical system, and the plastic greenhouse, which is also the typical system for Switzerland. And as you can see, the plastic greenhouse have the same yield actually as the PV panels. The umbrellas perform better because the climatic conditions actually were very good for the plants, and the light transmission were around 80%. So actually the conditions were were better for the plants there. This is why the yield is always better for those two systems, for Jolie and Fleur. But what was interesting is that the fruit weight, which is very important for Switzerland, were always the same. So similar between the system, a little bit higher for the umbrellas, but still similar. So this was very important for yield, you need to know. But the quality is equal, a little bit lower, and you have also a delay of the harvest time. Now regarding the raspberries, so you have here the plastic tunnel, the plastic greenhouse, and the PV panels. So as you can see, the PV panels perform the same as the plastic greenhouse. The plastic greenhouse will probably have the same climatic condition as in 5 or 6 years in Switzerland. So this is very good because we can still have the same production as the greenhouse. But the problem was that the yield was lower than the plastic tunnel, which is currently the most important installation in Switzerland for the farmers. So we also have a reduction of the yield for the raspberries. But the fruit weight were quite similar, and this is also important regarding the harvest and the time you need to pick the fruits. Last year, the result with the raspberry with autumn varieties were quite the same. We also look at outdoor, so the production we have without protection. And as you can see, the panels can actually benefit with a crop without protection.
Recording in progress.
And then we can still have similar fruit weights. So this was one benefits of our installation. So one drawback is the reduction of yield. One benefits is the equal fruit weight of the berries. The current knowledge on raspberries are that we have an increase of the leaf area. We color also the temperature under the system. The fruit yield and the weight are under panels comparable or slightly lower than under plastic. Usually the yield is lower by, I would say, maximum 20%. It's between 10 to 20% the reduction of yield. We have little or no differences in the quality, which is very important. And we also have a small delay with the harvest time. For the conclusion for the strawberries and raspberries, the strawberries, it's difficult for us in Switzerland. We need to increase the transparency of the panel, and we need to choose the varieties that require less light. For the raspberries, we have positive results. We are very happy here, and we want to go more into you have in Indonesia. So this map, you can have it on so it's the solar resource map. You can see the global horizontal irradiation in Indonesia. So it's already a third thing about actually what is the light that we have in Indonesia. I just want to show you, for example, to compare with Switzerland, keep in mind the yellow here.
Recording in
we have
progress.
less light than you in Indonesia. So we are here with our installation in Contes, so Sion. As you can see here, the maximum is 4, maybe 4.2. And this is not the light that we have in Switzerland. So actually in Indonesia, you have more light than us in Switzerland. So this is a first good point, I will say, for Indonesia, because the availability of light is more important. So this is the first step for you. The second one is the climate. So if I'm correct, regarding the Köppen-Geiger classification, you have a wet equatorial climate. So it's defined by the tropical season, and you have no dry season. Actually, the air temperature are quite always the same during the year, and you also have a lot of rainfall during some month, but not all the months. So actually, the weather you always have some rain, but not all around the year. So this is the second step to look at what are the climate in your country, what is the climate in the location you want to go. So first of all, the light, because this is the most important implication with agri-photovoltaics, and then the global climate, the air temperature, and the rainfall, I would say. Finally, regarding the crops, it's look at which crops you can put agri-photovoltaics on it. So you have, seems that you have palm oil production, rice, corn, peanuts, and soybean. Those are probably the most important production in Indonesia. So with palm oil, it will be a little bit complicated to put, I think, agri-PV on top because it's trees, the cost will increase and so on. So I won't recommend those crops. For rice, unfortunately, it's the same. I do not recommend to put agri-PV. It's maybe possible. I won't say it's not possible everywhere in Indonesia, but several studies have already shown a reduction in yield with rice. So now it's to know, may I reduce the yield of my rice, for example, of 20%, but still produce energy? You need to find the trade-off between this. And after, we get in the crops, how to choose it? First of all, I would suggest to look at the shade tolerant crop. Then the high added value crop, because for example, for berries, it's a high added value crops and the installation costs a lot. So this is still linked. You produce something with a high added value, then you can have a better drawbacks on your installation. Also, you can look at the crop that are already produced under protective structures, and if it's one good thing would be if large area are available for the crop. For this, you can see, for example, there is a paper. I put here the link where the paper are suggesting some crops, if I'm correct, for Indonesia with the crops that are done in China, in Australia, and so on. So you can also look at the country beside yours, what crops they have, where they put agri-PV and so on. This will give you some hints for your country. And finally, maybe I've seen that you have a lot of fisheries in your country. So what possibilities will be to do aquavoltaics? So to put actually panels on top of fish. This also might be possible. It's not directly linked to agri-photovoltaics, but it's still possible. You put solar panels on the top of your fish and it's aquavoltaics. You produce food and energy production. So to conclude, you have a potential for agri-photovoltaics in general in the world. You need to define a clear legal basis for your country. For example, in South France, there have a lot of abandoned solar greenhouse. We must avoid this in Switzerland, but in other countries and also in Indonesia. For me, the agricultural production must remain the main production. So the electricity production is a plus. The food production is what we want to produce first, and after we want to produce electricity. We have numerous technology available on the market. There are no limitations there. You need also to analyze the initial situation, so the light available, the needs, the crops, and so on, because it's a long-term vision. I told you about 25 years. On those projects, it's usually the vision, 25 years at least. So it's a long-term vision. You must think about, firstly, on the initial situation and after the lights, the crops, and so on. It's a major investment, of course. And finally, also maybe the social acceptance for agri-PV in Indonesia. I want to conclude by this, that agri-photovoltaics is not the solution. It's helped to achieve certain objectives, such as more renewable energy production, but it cannot be applied everywhere or to all crops. You need to have this in mind. It's a tool within a broader vision or objective. So it's help, but it's not the solution. We need to include this solution with others to produce energy and to produce fruit. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. And if you have a question, feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. That was a very, very interesting presentation and very practical as well. So we can see you as the researcher, I guess, very much in this situation. You said a lot about the practical applications on the ground. So we have a lot of questions already in the Q&A box. I will select a few from all the list. Perhaps the audience who are interested to follow up with you directly, perhaps can contact you by email. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, great. So my first question is from Andi Ramdhani. Bapak Ibu, mohon apabila bertanya di Q&A box, menuliskan ya dari mana asalnya. So from Andi Ramdhani, have there been any case studies about the use of agri-PV in extreme conditions, such as drought or very low temperatures, and what is the result? So perhaps that's the first question.
Yeah. So regarding the temperatures, so the low temperatures, I'm not aware about any papers, any installation, but I know, for example, for dry lands or for higher temperatures, such as in Morocco or in Spain, they all have a lot of knowledge, I would say, about tomatoes. And there they can have higher yield because they can reduce actually the temperature on the crops. So the problem we have in Switzerland, for example, is that we have not a higher temperature. We have a high temperature because we have some infrastructure, for example, greenhouses. But the drawbacks in Switzerland is that we don't have a lot of lights actually still available to the plants when we put agri-photovoltaics. But for example, in Indonesia or in Spain or Morocco, for Morocco and Indonesia at least, the light availability is very important. So this is still fine if you put some panels on the plant because you still have a lot of light for the crop. And the second major problem is the temperature. So when you can combine this, reduce the temperature and still have a lot of light to the plants, you can have actually a higher yield for the tomatoes, for example. And tomatoes is a very important crops for those countries, and it is a crop who needs a lot of light. I've done also meta-analysis about agri-photovoltaics, where I collect all the information that were already published. And in some papers, they also say that they have an increase of the yield with the corn production. Corn production is a typical C4 plant, and a C4 plant usually needs more light than a C3, for example, raspberries and strawberries. So it's still possible. As I told you, it's not possible to put agri-PV everywhere, but depending on your local condition, you can have higher yield or keep the yield you have with a typical system. For Switzerland, the limitations are linked to the light availability.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I guess perhaps for Indonesia, I see the biggest limitation as the investment and also the technology transfer,
of course.
probably, because there have faced are there any supporting technologies that have been developed in parallel with agri-PV technologies to improve its effectiveness, such as the monitoring of the weather or automatic irrigation and so on?
Yeah, actually, it's still possible to have other technology to all linked together. So to have the systems monitor sensors and so on with the system. So, for example, the dynamic system, you always have sensors, because a dynamic system will move with the sun and the target you want to have to the crops. So you always have sensors. So you can link always sensors with automatical irrigation with as you want. You can even put, if you want, some lights to the plants to support the reduction of the lights with the panels. So actually, you can think about what you want with the agri-PV installation. The problem is always the same: it's the cost. Because if you put something additional stuff to your system, then the cost will increase.
Right. So the technologies that was applied or that were applied in the projects supported by AgriScope, were they off-the-shelf technologies, or did you have to? Is it necessary to customize for every farm, for example, the type of agri-PV technology that can be built on that farm?
I would say yes. This is one limitation with agrivoltaics, is that you cannot replicate what you have on that site to another. But still, the panels, for example, the semi-transparent panels are more or less all the same in the world. So actually, you just maybe need to think about the spacing between the rows or the type of the panel you use. So this is interesting for the research purposes. That's actually, you cannot replicate the agri-PV everywhere. But for the farmer, this is very difficult then, because the result we have here in Conte, we cannot say, okay, we will have the same in Bern, but we are still in Switzerland, but the climatic conditions are not the same. So this is something difficult with the panels, that's with the agri-PV, of course. But I would say that
in that
the
case,
general...
the farmers, they work closely together with you. Hello? Are you still there?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm here.
Hello?
Can you hear me? I hear you.
Yes, Joe, I still can hear you, but maybe Budian have some problem.
Yeah, so maybe I can answer the question already.
Yes.
So we work with the farmers. Usually we speak with the farmers on the project. So usually the two farmers that have built the installation in Switzerland were first, they spoke with us with AgriScope first to say, okay, we want to do this. What are your knowledge? What you know about already agri-photovoltaics? So we were always involved in their project before the implementation on their side. So we spoke with them. We say, okay, you can use it. You can have those technology and so on. So the goal is always to have the research and the farmers with us, because we have some knowledge. They have the knowledge about the field. What are the the reality of the field, I would say, with the farmer, because we don't know their reality. We know the reality of the research, but we don't know the reality of a farmer. So it's very important to combine those things together and to move together in those type of projects.
I'm back. I think I was lost there for a few minutes. Can you see me?
Yep.
Okay, can you hear me? Great. So that was the follow-up point that I wanted to raise. So it's actually very, very important for the farmers to work closely with you, like the people who know the technologies. So that's also an interesting aspect for Indonesia, I guess. If this was something that is to be pursued on a larger scale, obviously there needs to be a collaboration between the researchers as well as the farmers or the private sector. Also, a related question to what you just commented. This question comes from Suhartono. For stilt-mounted PV array, is there an optimal standard for height and distance between solar panels? You mentioned that every farm would need to be tailored, right? But is there actually an optimal standard or a general calculation?
I would say the higher, the better is. Why? Because the climate condition then will be better, so you have more less problem with the climate, but the problem is always the same, it's the cost. But general is like, for example, in Switzerland with the greenhouses, we start at 8 meters and now we have at 9.6 meters from the land. So it's always the higher you are, the better it is for the climate. After, I will say, when you have such project with agrivoltaics, what you can do is first not to speak about the reduction of light to the plants, but actually what is the light that is still available to the plant. It's not the same. The reduction of light is, for example, we will reduce the light of 50% with our installation because we have panels, we have the structure and so on. But the light which is still available, it's the daily light integral, which is it's not the same because it's a very a number. For example, for us in Switzerland, we want to have 20 mole per meter square per day, which is what we want to have, but probably with the sun it's 30%. So the goal will be to have 20, and we will put an infrastructure on top of the crops, and the goal will be to achieve those 20%, and not to say I want to shade off 50% my plants. I think it's not the good thing to look at.
Right.
I know that's also a researcher from France. He published a very interesting article about the ground cover ratio. And he said that the ground cover ratio must be, so the ground cover ratio is the land, so the land on the ground, which is covered by panel. So panel, but also the infrastructure. And he said, if we want to have an interesting agri-PV installation with good yields and quality and so on, the ground cover ratio must be maximum of 25% with the stilt mountain installation. So those also, I think it's very also important to look at this paper. It's a new one from 2024. So the ground cover ratio, it's also important to look at, I think. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. I think
so. Unfortunately, I'm not actually answering the question because it's very difficult.
Right.
It's more difficult than expected.
It's actually also still an evolving topic, I guess, still being researched.
Exactly. So in the history, so Agri-Photovoltaics, the first mention was in 1983.
Okay.
But the first actually installation was in France in 2013. So actually 30 years after the proposition.
Yeah.
So it's still a new
very
topic
new then.
for farmers. Yeah, exactly.
It's very new, I guess, for both researchers and farmers.
Exactly.
Not to mention also the uptake, in terms of cost and everything. The examples, but considering Indonesia with tropical and mangrove areas, so based on the result of the crop compared with consumption, do you think it is better to use agri-PV in the mountain areas where it is colder and less corrosive. So yeah, do you think you can understand the question, or should I repeat it again?
No, I think it's okay. I will say I think it's possible. The problem is always who will use the energy produced. Is it the farmer, or will be added to for everyone in the country? Because if you need to connect to the energy, so to the electricity, the local electricity system, then you still have the problem with the cost. But if you use on the farm, then I think it's possible, of course, to put some panels in the mountain. I think so. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So other than the cost factor, actually the cost factor is also a very
important. The cost
factor
factor is always, I would say,
the
first
also
thing.
Set is the electricity for the farm for agriculture purposes, improving yield and so on, or is it actually for providing electricity, right? And in your presentation, I think you mentioned that actually the focus, you would tend to focus more on improving the agricultural productivity.
Exactly. First of all, the food must remain the first production, and after you produce electricity. And for us in Switzerland, so Agroscope recommend that the farmers use the energy in self-consumption. It's always regarding the cost and the financing model, because if you, for example, if you resell the energy, I think it's 15 cents per kilowatt hour, I think so, in Switzerland. But if you reuse it on farm, it's better for the financing model, actually.
Okay.
So we encourage in Switzerland that the farmers self-consume their own production, and actually the two farmers that are already built Agri-PV installation, they self-consume.
Right. And how long did it take to build the PV installation in those farms?
I think it was only 1 month for the ones in Bern, and 2 months for the ones in Luzern. Yeah. For us, so at least more or less 4,000 meters square in Comté. So the last installation was in 2 months. That is built, so you can already use it. Probably you don't have already the energy production, but I would say 2 to 3 months. So actually, it's quite fast to produce and to build those installations. The people who are involved in those projects know the topic, know how to put some panels and so on. So I think it's quite fast. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And in terms of the panels, you mentioned several different types of panels. Are they relatively new in the market, or are they easily accessible?
No, they are easily accessible. Most of them are produced in China, actually. I think there are 2 or 3 resellers that produce in China panels, and all the ones we use for our experiment on farm or in Comté, they are manufactured panels. They are available on the markets very easily.
Okay.
And also, this is very good because then you can lower the cost regarding the panels.
Right.
So this is
and hopefully they continue to be lower.
Yeah. Probably we will have a little bit change regarding the size of the panel. Maybe they will still increase a little bit the size of one panel, and probably the solar cells will increase also a little bit, but not that much. I think I spoke with a person involved in Switzerland with all the panels and so on. He told us that those will be probably the change in the future, but we won't have a lot of change as we had so far in the past 10 years, I will say, where the panels were completely opaque. Now we have semi-transparent panels. We would probably just change regarding the sheet we use, if it's glass, plastic, or specific film.
Okay. Is it possible if you have the solar panel installed on your farm, does it have to be on-grid, or can it be off-grid?
No.
For example, for the farm itself.
No, it might be off-grid.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, no, good. That's a technical question because there have been some regulations in Indonesia about off-grid and on-grid solar PV.
Yeah.
Okay, so going on to the next question. We have here a student from Tasikmalaya, Febri. She has several questions, but one of them that I would like to raise is, are there any strategies that we can come up with to maximize the potential of agri-photovoltaics, looking at the Indonesia context? I know you mentioned a little bit, looking at the potential of Indonesia with the light that we have in abundance, and also in terms of crops, you have to be selective. So I guess what she's saying is that, what are the strategies or the key important considerations that are most relevant for Indonesia if we were to apply this?
Yeah, first of all, we say have a context regarding the laws. It's very important. We need to avoid everyone's the problem they are facing in France with the greenhouses, that actually there are solar greenhouses with panels, but you don't produce anymore. So this is basically land that's not used for something, even for energy production. So first of all, define clearly the laws and say, okay, you can produce. It's just said, yeah, you can produce in those certain conditions. When the laws is defined, you can say, so it's linked. So you can define the laws and directly work on the subject. I would say that you need to define the laws and after look at the agri-photovoltaics. But still, look at the laws first and implement some laws. Just say, okay, we want to produce food first and after energy, for example. And after, how to implement it. It's very to know so if you already have some panels in Indonesia, but for example, just for energy production, speak with the person involved with those installation, the reseller, the energy producer, and so on, because they know the topic. They probably don't know how to build an infrastructure with agri-PV installation. This was the same for us for the first one. The structure is very heavier and so on, but with the knowledge we have, you need to first build something and after you move on and you find the best solution. So involve everyone in your project, involve all the partners you can have, the farmer, the reseller for the energy reseller, the person involved in the building and so on. And then you come up with a tool which will work for everyone. But define clearly who will use the installation. What are the purposes of the installation? And then when you look at where I can implement the installation, look at first of the sunlight, the sun availability, and after the selection of the crops, the ones that are already, for example, covered or with a higher value. I would say start with this, and after, when you have the knowledge, then expand it to something else. But for example, you can also say we start with rice because we have a lot of land. Even we know that probably we'll have a decrease of yield, but this is maybe not the same in Indonesia on the location where you are. So don't stick to one thing, but start with something which will probably work, and after expand it to something else, to another crops or another location and so on. I think the best way is to involve everyone in a project, and not to say, okay, just a farmer itself alone and say, I want to do this, but I don't have the knowledge. He has the knowledge on the land, but not on the energy production.
I
hope I answered the question.
Yes, you did, I think. Okay, we have about 5 more minutes. So unfortunately, due to time constraints, there are a lot of questions that have not been answered. But this is a very quick and simple one. There's a student from Polytechnic Negeri Sambas, Polytechnic. which is an applied science university in Indonesia. And his name is Pande Santoso. He asked if I want to continue my studies in Switzerland and take the topic of agrivoltaics, could you be my supervisor? So are you open for supervising students?
Yeah, I already done it last year with a student coming from America who studied in Germany. So we also, if possible, we have some master thesis on so on in Switzerland. So yeah, it's we still have some possibilities that it's possible. Already done it last year.
Okay, great.
But then we are more involved, so we are not directly involved with for this student. Typically, we are not involved in the school. We are saying, okay, you have the school, you propose your topic with the school, but we are here to support the work on the field and to supervise the topic. So we are a partner of the thesis. We are not directly the person who managed the thesis. Just you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still possible.
Right.
It's still possible, of course.
So, Mas Pande, I hope you're listening. If you are interested, then please get in touch with Jocelyn via email and follow up from there. Next question is from Stephen Rumokoi. He asked, has there been any research or information about the effect of agri-PV or installing the solar PV towards pollination? And does it actually affect, the wind and so on that is required for pollination?
That's a very good and interesting question. So, for example, for us, not yet in Switzerland, but this is a topic that we will look at this year, actually, with someone working with wild bees, and he will look at also under our installations if actually the installation might change the behaviors of the pollinators. It changed, of course, the wind speed and so on, but does the panel affect actually is very important and interesting topic.
Okay. Unfortunately, that's all the questions that we have time to read. But before I close the floor, perhaps I would like to raise two comments or two concluding points from my side based on your presentation and also our discussion just now. Is that first, Agri-PV is a relatively new and evolving technology, and it shows promise, but it is very, very context specific. So like you said, even for different farms, you may need different specifications. Nothing is off the shelf at the moment. And for Indonesia, with good sunlight as a natural resource, that is a good potential, but still it depends on the local conditions, the crop types, and more importantly, I guess the technical adaptability from our side. And the second point that struck to me was that the importance of collaboration and knowledge sharing, because this is so new, especially for Indonesia, then to be successful, if we want to pursue it, then a lot of collaboration between research, farmers, companies, government, to lay down the legal framework is also very important. So again, Jocelyn, thank you so much for sharing with us this very interesting topic, which I know is very close to your heart, since you've been doing it for several years. We will share your presentation with the audience, and thank you so much for being open for any follow-ups that the audience might have.
Sure. Don't hesitate to contact me. So I put my link on the last slide, so you have my email address if you want. So yeah, you're welcome to send me an email and so on. And yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you so much. Now I hand over the floor back to our MC, Mbak Endah. Thank you, Jocelyn. Foto bersama, Mbak. Jangan lupa nanti.
Oh ya, boleh kita foto bersama dulu aja sekarang.
Oh, okay. We're gonna have a photo session together.
Baik, Bapak Ibu, boleh dibuka kameranya dengan Pak Kapus, juga dengan Pak Kepala BDBT. Silakan. Baik, saya hitung 1, 2, 3. Sekali lagi, 1, 2, 3. Terima kasih. Oke, thank you. Baik, selamat sore Bapak Ibu. Demikian adalah materi yang sangat menarik terkait dengan Agri-Photovoltaics dari Jocelyn dari Switzerland. Semoga materi hari ini, the potential of agri-photovoltaic to maximize fruits and crop production, experiences from Switzerland, sangat bermanfaat untuk kita semua. Terima kasih kami ucapkan kepada Bapak Kepala PPSDM KBTKE, para pimpinan, para narasumber, dan moderator, juga kepada para peserta webinar yang sudah hadir hari ini. Terima kasih juga kami ucapkan kepada pemerintah Swiss melalui Renewable Energy Skills Development, dan tentunya Agroscope atas dukungannya dalam penyelenggaraan webinar kali ini. Semoga apa yang disampaikan dapat menjadi pengetahuan terkait dengan Agri-Photovoltaics dan potensinya. Mohon dimaafkan apabila ada kekurangan dalam penyelenggaraan. Nantikan
izin,
webinar.
Mbak, untuk pemenang pertanyaan terbaik nanti mohon baca di chat ya, di grup sudah kami usulkan.
Oh ya, baik, nanti saya oke. Saya infokan di akhir dulu, saya tutup dulu. Mohon maaf apabila ada kekurangan dalam penyelenggaraan. Nantikan webinar PPSDM KBTKI selanjutnya. Sekian dan terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sampai jumpa. Baik, ini
Terima
saya terlewat.
kasih Pak Jocelyn, terima kasih Bu Dian, terima kasih Bapak Ibu semua.
Terima kasih banyak Pak
Pak
Kapus,
Kapus.
Pak
Thank you very
Desrisional,
much.
terima kasih.
Baik, ini ada terakhir pemenangnya yaitu Andi Ramdhani, Hagia Lubis, dan Stephen Rumokoy. Boleh mengirimkan kontaknya ya secara japri kepada Mbak Velen ya, Mbak Velen atau Mbak Jessica? Betul ya Mbak Dian?
Iya, boleh, atau di kolom chat, atau mengisi formulir evaluasi ya, asal nanti kita
betul.
Jadi kami yang akan kontak ya untuk
Baik.
hadiah e-walletnya.
Baik, jangan sampai salah isi di nomornya ya. Baik, terima kasih. Selamat sore, sampai jumpa. Thank you, Jocelyn. See you again. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jocelyn.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a nice afternoon. Yeah.
Have a great day for you.
Thank you.
Kalau kita bayangi di beberapa tahun ke depan ini, kita akan melihat bahwa banyak sekali yang kita butuhkan. Untuk yang dibutuhkan sekarang saja sudah kekurangan sekali. Jadi harus benar-benar bagaimana kita menyiapkan diri untuk perkembangan yang akan datang di masa depan.
Kelasnya itu sangat seru dan instrukturnya itu juga baik-baik dan mereka sangat keren-keren dan pengalaman mereka itu luar biasa.
Nanti di akhir kan bakalan dapetin sertifikat dan itu sangat berguna banget buat kalian untuk melanjutkan jenjang karir kalian ke yang lebih tinggi lagi.
Dan untuk cewek-cewek jangan merasa takut untuk mengikutinya karena kami aja bisa, apalagi kalian pasti bisa.
Recording stopped.